All right, today we're going to dive into a concept that is one of those things where once you see it, you can't really unsee it. It's called Hegelian Capture, and it's this really powerful idea that might just explain why so many of our political debates feel less like debates and more like traps. I mean, you know that feeling, right? You're scrolling online, you're watching the news, and it feels like every single issue is just a war. It's totally polarized, and you're pushed to pick a side, but neither side seems to offer a real way out. Well, what if that feeling of being trapped, of being herded into a corner, isn't an accident? What if it's the whole point? And that's where this idea, Hegelian capture, comes into play. The theory goes like this. It's a process where you take real social tensions, real problems, and you crank the heat up. You amplify them until the public is so exhausted, so desperate for a solution, that they'll accept an outcome that was waiting in the wings all along, an outcome they would have never chosen in the first place. Okay, so let's get into the mechanics here. And this is super important. This isn't a conspiracy theory. We're not talking about a shadowy group in a secret room. Nope. This is about something more subtle. It's about how the incentives of huge institutions, media, academia, corporations, can all just align, almost accidentally, to steer society in a very specific direction. So here's how that incentive convergence plays out step by step. First, you need a genuine social tension, a real problem. Step 2, all these different players jump on it for their own reasons. The media wants clicks, right? Academia wants to be relevant. Corporations are looking for a new market or a way to get ahead, so they all amplify the tension. And pretty soon, the problem gets blown up into a full-blown crisis, way beyond what our normal institutions can handle. And then right on cue, a solution appears, the synthesis, and it's presented as the only way out. So how do you even get there? Well, the source we're looking at argues that certain ideas act like a kind of acid, an ideal solvent. Think about the idea that there's no objective truth, only power dynamics. An idea like that doesn't need to attack institutions like family or community head-on. It just dissolves the foundation they stand on, the very idea of shared values and truth, leaving them weak and easy to replace. And this is the critical move in the whole process. When a new, radical idea is introduced, what happens if you ask for proof? What if you demand evidence? Well, you're not seen as a skeptic anymore. No. You're accused of acting in bad faith, or even worse, of committing epistemic violence, the idea that just questioning someone's belief is itself a form of harm. It's a way to make an idea immune to criticism. Okay, so this all sounds pretty abstract. Let's make it real. The source points to the cultural battles of the last decade or so as a perfect case study of this process in action. Let's walk through it. So if we rewind to, say, 2012, the baseline, the thesis, was what you might call the liberal settlement. The big ideas were individual rights, free speech. Then, starting around 2014, the antithesis kicks in. We see this explosion of identity-based conflict, massively amplified by social media and institutional pressure. And all that conflict, all that heat, is now pushing us toward a new synthesis, the rise of what the source calls technocratic managerialism. Basically, a system where experts and administrators manage social problems from the top down. This table really lays it all out. You can see the journey right there. We go from a world of individual rights and community groups to a pressure cooker of group identity. And we end up with a system of centralized authority where just disagreeing is framed as causing harm. That's a massive shift. And you have to understand, the goal here isn't just to win an argument or change a few minds. It's to fundamentally restructure our institutions. The source points to debates over gender ideology as an example. The conflict didn't just stay in the realm of ideas. It led to massive changes in our legal systems, our medical institutions, our schools, all of which require brand new layers of bureaucracy and administrative control to manage. But here is where this analysis gets really interesting. And maybe a little uncomfortable. Because this isn't just a critique of one political side. The argument is that this is a structural trap, and the backlash, the reaction to it, can be just another part of the same machine. Just take a look at this. It's almost a perfect mirror image, isn't it? On one side, you have a movement that rejects objective truth to go after hegemonic power. On the other, you have a backlash that rejects mainstream sources to go after the deep state. See the pattern? The targets are different, but the core strategy is identical. Tear down the existing sources of authority to consolidate your own power. And what's the end result? Well, you can see it right here. Even though they seem like they're in a fight to the death, both of these movements structurally lead to the exact same place, They both end up expanding the power of the administrative state. The fight itself is what fuels the growth of a bigger, more centralized government. This quote just nails it perfectly. The choice between them is a choice about the color of the walls. The room keeps getting smaller regardless. We're so busy fighting over whether to paint the room blue or red that we don't even notice the walls are closing in on us. So, if it's a trap, is there a way out? How do you escape? Well, the final part of this theory is all about how to recognize the game that's being played and then choosing not to play it. The very first step, the most powerful tool you have, is to just stop and ask this one simple question. The next time you feel that outrage, that pull to join the fight, just ask, who benefits from me being this angry about this right now? It shifts your perspective from being a player in the game to an analyst of the game itself. And then there's the long game. According to this idea, the real solution isn't political, it's cultural. It's about rebuilding all those things that got dissolved in the first place, strengthening families and local communities, insisting on consistent standards of evidence for everyone. Basically, building a society that's so strong and healthy from the bottom up that it doesn't need a massive, top-down state to manage its problems. Because we have to be clear about the destination of this whole process. The end point isn't the utopia that either side is promising you. The real destination is a totally managed system where the only political question left to debate is which group of bureaucrats gets to be in charge of the machine. And that ultimately leaves us with a pretty challenging question. In a world that's constantly demanding you pick a side, maybe the most revolutionary choice isn't which side to pick, but whether you should be playing their game at all. Thanks for exploring this idea with me.